Alright guys, let's take a look at the hand. On the flop, 895 definitely coordinated to a limper's limp. I'm my plan to check fold here against any bets, even a small bet like this. I decided to fold and gets really bad on the turn. Country Gamma bets out pretty big, and right here, Giffy jams. Okay, let me kind of backtrack here. I think both players' plays here on this river is atrocious. Well, on the turn rather is kind of bad. Um, More so, I feel the donk bet by Country Gamma on the flop was really bad. Um, Here's the thing: he had kings here. Or let me really rewind here. Um, Pre-flop. So he has kings here, and he's under the gun, right? He decides to limp, and what I think he's trying to do is trying to get somebody to raise so he can shove, right? Yeah, that's a good, you know, I don't know how to say it. That's a nice try per se. However, one, nobody's really short at the final table yet, except for Giffy. So nobody's really going to be shoving their stacks, with any ace, or any like king queen, ace, all these different combos. So the likelihood of somebody raising you when you limp like that isn't great in my opinion, right? Also, on a multi-way flop, when you see a 895 board on flop, you have to be really nervous about this, right? So the best thing to do really is to bet 2/3 pot on the flop, in my opinion. And whoever calls you, if they call you, they have something, right? Because what are they going to call you with that doesn't scream they have something, right? So they can call you with, a six in their hand, right? So if they just call you with a six in their hand, right, potentially, then they're calling you with like some sort of draw, right? Now on the flip side, are you okay?
Yeah. It's my this right here.
Your calf, your thigh, hamstring,
this thing right here.
tendon. So on the flip side, if he raises you, he has two pair or whatnot, or some sort of like potential straight, or maybe even has like set, or maybe even have like, you know, top pair, top picker kind of deal. So the whole thing is when you bet out, you're wanting to see where you're at, especially when you have king, especially on the coordinated flop. So anyway, so I really didn't like to play pre-flop. I didn't like to play post-flop, and on the turn, I really didn't like it because now the turn completes straights, right? And in my opinion, you just check fold here, right? Because you got Giffy right here. He's short, and he's in the big blind, and he's checked it, right? So he has something of that nature, right? And now when Country Gamma bets out that big, and then Giffy calls, Giffy only leaves him with like I think 2 or 3,000, whatever it is. And if I'm Giffy, I'm shoving the river, shoving the turn, right? Because you're not gonna like that the river card of a king of diamonds. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And so that's the whole idea. So I really think that Giffy should be shoving the turn, but he doesn't. He shoved the river, which he's lucky that nobody has a diamond out there, a diamond flush. So anyway, moving on. I just didn't like the play, how it came about, and I actually took a note on Country Grammar doing that. Oh, what he did, limping under the gun with kings, and then not, totally disregarding the whole board itself and the potential for a straight that a big blind normally has, random low cards. So anyway, so I make a note there. And so, going over the final table, and we, kind of as it's happening, I felt really good about my chances of running deep, at least to top three, because I had a mixture of people that were playing passive and a mixture of people playing aggressive, and it was just a good mix. I could lean on the passive people and take away chips from the aggressive people by re-raising or raising the limps, so it felt good. And over here, I did put a little note: limp on the gun with king, and it gets it in by river again, flush and straight board with a set of kings, and that's kind of interesting. And over here, guys, we see that Pokeboy opens up again, and he's opened up quite a bit, um, quite a bit, and so I've noticed that, and I try to adjust accordingly. I think I do later on, but it's something to note. And here's my first raise, I think. Yeah, my first raise at the table, and I couldn't get shoved on. Yeah, I get shoved like just hardcore shove, and yeah, I gotta let it go. His pre-flop raise is 5, so and he showed ace queen, so yeah, he had a hand. So I decided to let it go. Um, yeah. So it is interesting though. It really the game, the final table could have went uh, different ways, different, yeah, different ways. But I was lucky to have key hands. I was lucky to hold at certain times or suck out at one time. But I had chips too, so like if I lost, it wouldn't be like significant. Here, yeah. So I put a note here. He shoved over like what was it? Like close to like 20 something big blinds with sevens. I mean that's an extreme shove. I mean I don't know. It's something good to note. His shoving range is somewhat wide in terms of including pocket pairs. I mean I guess that's okay to shove because I prefer a raise and then call a shove. But I don't know. I mean, I just feel like you're not getting that much value when you shove like that. But then again, each player is different, each comfort level, so forth and so on. So I'll make a little note there. Uh, and here, okay, guys, let me pause it real quick. Over here, it's kind of interesting because, okay, if you look at the odds, I'm getting extreme odds here. I just didn't feel comfortable playing out of position against this guy. For the most part, I didn't feel comfortable playing out of position against somebody that min raises with a low PFR. It's just in the pre-flop raise. He had 4 out of 100 hands. So even though it's just a min raise, I still felt uncomfortable. I didn't really want to play out of position and didn't want to be second guessing myself if king came off. So yeah, so I just didn't feel good with it. So I don't think I called at all. Pretty sure I don't call. I think I folded. Yeah, yeah. I'm noticing that I don't like playing out of position at all. So I'm pretty passive with my line. Um, Looks like the Warriors just lost to Detroit. That kind of sucks. They lost to Detroit. Yeah. So anyway, so far so good. We look at Giffy here. He's starting to become more active. However, he's still, I think, the tightest player at the table. It looks like. Yeah. Queen 8 here. I don't think I opened, and I think I should have. It's a actually, I do open. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I do open it actually. There's some spots where I don't open, and I think I should have. Here, I decided to bet out. Let's see. Yeah, I was betting out that big because I want to show that I was committed. I really felt like he didn't have an ace here, but at the same time, I don't know. I felt like I was willing to call a shove there, so I kind of wanted to give an impression to, to show that I was committed, but also to show that he can shove, possibly. That's why I did that. So let's see here. So we're moving along. We're second in chips. We don't really deviate that much until a little bit later. I think we go down all the way down to as low as 6th place in chips. And that's due to an all-in that I call off with. Jack 10 here, I should open. I believe I open. And my opening size kind of varied a little bit. Didn't really vary so much as to the cards, but it kind of varied so much as in position. So the further I got to the button, I kind of opened up smaller, but the I mean, the closer I got to the button, I opened up smaller, and the further away I got to the button, I kind of opened up a little bit bigger. But didn't really vary too much on what I was holding per se. Yeah, and I felt like my image was okay. I kind of was nervous. Not nervous. I kind of was wondering if I'm not opening enough. Um, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to know, in my opinion, how much to open and how not to open, right? But as you guys will find out, I try to open them as much as I can, uh, under my impression of the correct time to open. And for the most part, I get a lot of folds whenever I open, which is nice. And whenever did get called, it'd be a lot, Seabass would take it down, and yeah. So that's standard 7-3 offsuit fold. T poker opens up for 3 on the button, and this guy shoves, and so that's something I didn't really pay attention too much to, but I should have, because if you guys look at it, T poker opens 3x with the kings, right? And so what does that tell me? It tells me that if he opens up with something less than less than 3 times the big blind, it might mean he doesn't have that great of a hand. He already decided to punish his guys complete on the small and raise kind of big. I didn't mind playing that 9-7 suited in position, in a raid pot, in a blind versus blind confrontation. I didn't feel comfortable shoving there because that's just too spewy in my opinion. So I decided to go ahead and raise. Over here, H2 offshoot. In the small, I decided to fold. Usually when buttons limp, it's kind of weird. Sometimes when buttons limp, they limp kind of strong for some reason. I don't know why it is, but they limp kind of strong here. But I decided to fold it. I could have raised on the button, on the small blind, but I decided not to. Here I decided to open, I believe, or I fold. I fold. Yeah. And that's another thing. It's kind of hard to figure out when to open, when to fold the button, and when not to. I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, you're supposed to be opening your buttons when folded to you, maybe like 70% of the time or 80% of the time." But I really don't like it because then I feel you're kind of exploitable. Because then you're kind of spewy. Because then the time they play back at you, you have to fold, and then that leads to your image of being really not spewy, but just too aggressive, and people can play back at you lighter. Then they don't have to wait for their hands anymore. They kind of have to, play back at you when they feel like it's their best spot. So I really try to limit myself when I opened raised, when it was folded to me. Here, yeah, I decided I was debating whether or not to raise this guy's raise here, but I ended up just folding. In hindsight, it would have worked. However, Giffy open shoves. I think he just So yeah, I just felt that Pokeboy was opening kind of light there. I wanted it to raise, but then same token, I'm glad I didn't because I think Giffy would have shoved over my re-raise. Maybe or maybe not. It depends because it looks like Giffy's really really passive. So it all depends. Here, 2.6x Rob No Bot raises on the button, and I felt that's kind of like exploitable. He's been doing that a lot too. Later on, you'll see it in the vids. Throughout the final table, he does that a ton. Under the gun, I didn't really raise two. I mean, my spots where I raised when folded two would be like late position. I didn't really feel comfortable raising in early position. It just I don't know, for some reason lately it's been like one of those things where I didn't like playing out of position post flop. So however, eventually I'm gonna start implementing my game more where I can play on different different positions, in and out of position and so forth and so on, with different holdings. But it have to be kind of like tailor made to the player at hand. Yeah. And decided to fold, I think, the Jack 9 offsuit here against his raise.